Boruto is about to upgrade his sword through Sumire, but little does anyone know that the scroll that he gave her holds the key to vast OTSUTSUKI technology. I think Momoshiki is the one who recommended him to amp the blade, for a reason that was in front of us this entire time. Moreover, there is even a chance for the OTSUTSUKI to use his own future sight to find the perfect person who could enhance the blade. Well, more on that later, but let's first understand why Momoshiki being the one behind the scroll makes absolute sense. The short answer is the karma. Chapter 25 showed us Boruto and Momoshiki deciding to collaborate in fighting Jura, and the most vital thing that the OTSUTSUKI can give Boruto is his own powers that he can access through the karma seal. Speaking of the karma, it's an advanced OTSUTSUKI technology that acts as a compressed backup of their genetic data and consciousness. When implanted on a host, it gradually rewrites their body into an OTSUTSUKI vessel, enabling immense power, regeneration, and dimensional abilities. Essentially, it's a resurrection program, allowing an OTSUTSUKI to reincarnate through the host while granting them access to godlike energy and combat prowess. And when you look at how the secret scroll also holds the intel to some new technology, what if this upcoming tech also originates from the OTSUTSUKI clan? Well, the reason I think so is power mismatch. The karma can boost Boruto's output exponentially, but an unupgraded sword might not be able to handle the surge. It might overheat, break in the middle of the battle, just like how Sasuke's old sword struggled against OTSUTSUKI foes, leaving Boruto vulnerable in close quarters combat. We have already seen this in chapter 4, where Mamushi took hold of Boruto's sword and he could have easily snatched it from him. But the plot armor didn't let that happen, as Masuri appeared in the next scene and used her wood style to elevate Boruto off the ground. So in order to defeat the Shinju, the sword needs to go hand in hand with the karma, and that will not be possible without an upgrade. The whole concept of OTSUTSUKI powers can be traced back to advanced technology of the universe. Therefore, Boruto referring to this technique as something that doesn't exist in his world yet can be taken as a hint for its otherworldly origin. Now let's talk about if the sword of Boruto will become a Shinjutsu after the upgrade by Sumire. I think so because it was referred to as a new technology, and when you look at how the OTSUTSUKI possess more advanced powers than the other species in the universe, they just seem to have greater technology which allows them to have these pseudo-scientific powers such as the karma and the tech from the Ten Tails dimension. In chapter 75, Momoshiki revealed that he knows all the Shinjutsu, so if he is upgrading the sword of Boruto into something that would go hand in hand with the karma, it would be very likely for the power to be purely OTSUTSUKI based, again justifying its otherworldly origin and attributing it as a Shinjutsu. Now as for what could become a direct parallel to Boruto's enhanced blade, I think it's going to be the chakra blade of Kinshiki OTSUTSUKI. The abilities provide a strong canon template for how OTSUTSUKI influenced tools evolved, especially since Momoshiki absorbed Kinshiki and inherited his powers. This could foreshadow Boruto's sword becoming a versatile chakra-absorbing god slayer that syncs perfectly with his karma boosts. Kinshiki's blade was not ordinary, as his signature ability allowed him to absorb any Shinjutsu, which are chakra-based techniques, and reshape that stolen energy into glowing red chakra weapons like axes or swords. These were not static tools, instead they were dynamic manifestations of pure OTSUTSUKI chakra, capable of overwhelming Kage-level opponents with brute force and adaptability. And if you think about it, without the upgrade, the blade of Boruto could strain when it's used simultaneously with the karma, so the scroll, which is potentially Momoshiki's artifact, could have the key to integrating Kinshiki-like abilities and turning the blade into a symbiotic weapon. The chakra integration would make it impossible for Kawaki to shrink it, since it will not be any ordinary blade anymore. Boruto is confidently using the karma and the sword in the future, which means the blade holds some properties which keeps it safe from the Kokugan. In other words, it's an enhanced sentient sword, similar to the ones used by the OTSUTSUKI members. So if it's actually Momoshiki behind this blade of Boruto, then it answers a lot of questions about the trading dynamics as well. We will also get into how Momoshiki may have used his future sight to select Sumire for the blade enhancement, so stay tuned. He seems to be trying to train Boruto in a manner similar to his own clan. Boruto seems to have officially begun his OTSUTSUKI training arc after earning the title of the strongest shinobi. As I said in a previous video, the karma can only pass down the experience when you know how to extract it. So Momoshiki doing the things which are important for Boruto to channel the entire powers of the seal makes perfect sense. This includes turning his sword into a blade, which is similar to the ones used by the OTSUTSUKIs in their battles. The sword could act as a token of alliance between the two, as Momoshiki may have shared his whole Kenjutsu knowledge to teach Boruto the OTSUTSUKI way of fighting. And this upgrade will be a transition for Boruto from being the strongest shinobi to the strongest OTSUTSUKI. Because if you wanna be the most powerful being in a race, you can't use the tactics of some other species to get there. And this gives us a hint for how the OTSUTSUKI operate while utilizing their tools. Every capable OTSUTSUKI may have upgraded their tools with chakra in order to prevent them from getting chipped, on top of increasing their strength. Well, keeping all that in mind, what if Kawaki from the future has also coated his staff with chakra to make it more powerful? Well, there are a number of hints which say that this may be true. First off, we have the prologue scene where the sword and the staff clash to create red and blue energy upon contact. At first it may seem like a thematic choice, but if you think about it, the real cause behind this could be the chakra which is coated on both the weapons. The blue energy was formed by the chakra of Boruto's blade, while the red energy comes from Kawaki's staff that he must have gotten upgraded as well. Next up, we have his demand of unlocking his full potential that he has put forward to Amado. Kawaki wants to go all out with his powers of the Kama, and if he does that without upgrading his staff, then it's very likely for the weapon to fail at sustaining the exterior pressure. In other words, it could break down the moment Kawaki decides to use it with full force, which is why an upgrade with chakra coating is the best possible solution. Well, this doesn't stop here. Chapter 27 showed us Kawaki seeking more power-ups from Amado, while Sumire on the other hand is going to the same lab to upgrade the sword of Boruto. So it's a no-brainer that Kawaki, after seeing Boruto enhance his sword, could ask Sumire to do the same thing with his staff. This would yet again prove that OTSUTSUKIs cannot wield normal weapons and will always need to enhance their tools while fighting. Now let's move on to the most interesting part. Why do I feel like it's Momoshiki who used his future sight to look into the type of research that Sumire is conducting under Amado just before giving away the information in the form of a scroll to Boruto that he then handed over to Sumire under Momoshiki's command? Well, the possibility comes from the recent events of the story where Boruto and Kashin Koji, who is the main source of his future knowledge, are trapped in some conflicts. Well, before I head over to what they are and why Boruto seeking Momoshiki's help instead of Koji's makes sense right now, just think about this. If it was actually Koji who gave Boruto the idea to upgrade the blade, why couldn't he do it any earlier? I mean, by doing it early, he could have given Boruto a small edge against Jura and the others, but he still kept it to himself, and it wasn't until Boruto made the deal with Momoshiki that Koji felt the need to reveal this upgrade. However, there is a good amount of chance that it wasn't Koji who gave him this idea to enhance the blade. Looking at how Koji is willing to sacrifice anyone for the sake of a better future, Boruto knows for a fact that working with him is like walking on spikes, cause there is no way to find who will be made his pawn next. Chapter 27 reveals that Koji saw a future where Himawari died and her death triggered the new power of Inojin. So if you think about it, in case Koji hadn't gotten Inojin on their side, he would have most likely kept back the information of Himawari's death from Boruto. It wouldn't be until the event would have actually happened that Boruto would have realized that it's too late to change anything. The same thing happened when Koji had put forward Konohamaru and Yoro as sacrificial pawns, where one of them tragically lost their life as well. So if Boruto would have blindly followed Koji's plan, then Konohamaru and Himawari would have been dead as well. I think the cyborg decided to frame a plan to protect Boruto's sister only after realizing how badly losing someone close would affect him. He had put his life on line to save Konohamaru, meaning his death would have been no less than a tragedy. Same goes for Himawari, who is the most precious person to him. The plans of Koji risk the lives of everyone he wants to protect, and that's why instead of listening to his advice, Boruto could have simply went to Momoshiki for help. Well, there is a very specific reason for why Koji is playing these games with him, but before I explain that, let's find out why Momoshiki being the one to guide Boruto into upgrading his sword makes a lot of sense. First off, the blade upgrade part only kicked in after Momoshiki decided to accept the deal of helping Boruto in defeating Jura. It's as if both of them were connected in some way, and looking at how Momoshiki must be aware about the strength of Boruto's blade and how it might not survive if the user gets amped with the Kama seal, similar to how some OTSUTSUKIs in the past might have broken their tools when they used raw strength without any chakra infusion. So Momoshiki's knowledge of the past acting as a catalyst to making Boruto more stronger is a really huge possibility. Secondly, Secondly, he has the power to look forward in time, which was revealed by the authors as something different than a Shinjutsu. He has used it to show Boruto the events of Aida's omnipotence a day before they actually happened. So there is a good amount of chance for Momoshiki to show Boruto the death of Himawari as well as the other events that would follow if he would trust Koji blindly. The enhancement of the blade could have been something that he recommended to him in order to get more stronger when he was explaining the ins and outs of being an OTSUTSUKI to him. On top of that, he could have seen a future where Sumire is doing similar experiments, and that may be why he recommends Boruto to go to her for the sake of enhancing the sword. There is even a chance for Boruto to inherit this power of future sight from Momoshiki. In this way, he would be able to tackle the sinister plans of Kashin Koji, which involve sacrificing innocent people. Well, all of this makes much more sense when you realize the true reason behind Koji's differences. It's the simple fact of him being a synthetic human, that he doesn't account for emotions while making his decisions. He wasn't raised like a normal human being. He came into existence from Amado's lab, who used the remains of Jiraiya to create him. His personality is also nothing like his human counterpart, again indicating that synthetic humans cannot be the same as normal human beings. The case of Aida and Daemon is different because they were humans before and were modified by Amado to have the Shinjutsu. But in case of Koji, he was created from scratch with the remains of Jiraiya, and later when he awakened the power of prescience through the Shibai cells, his goal shifted from destroying Ishiki to protecting the world from the upcoming threats. This lack of emotions in his character made him less considerate about the lives of those who are close to Boruto. In his eyes, if their death can pull a better future, then they should be killed. It's the most ruthless way to win the war, where you would have to lose many battles on the way. Think of it like this: if Koji didn't get the idea of using Inogen as a tool to stay in touch with Konoha, on top of not letting Boruto know that Himawari's life is online in the next battle, then chances are Boruto wouldn't have been able to protect her on time. He even kept back the part of her awakening the powers of Kurama, and even the fact that Jura was after her due to her Biju powers. While it may be that he didn't hide it on purpose, but if he did do that with pure intent, then he is not a reliable ally at all, since his brain works with different goals and aims. So if Inogen was never recruited, chances are Himawari would have been dead, and Boruto would have blamed it on Kashin Koji, which may be why the best thing he could do was to rely on Momoshiki's future sight, just to prevent the futures from manifesting what Koji had planned. So a few things are clear by now. Momoshiki could have asked Boruto to upgrade his blade before teaching him to use the Karma properly. Boruto is slowly relying less on Kashin Koji due to his ruthless and emotionless way of doing things. Also looking at how the cliffhanger of chapter 27 says a few days later instead of a week later. This means the battle is gonna start sooner than expected, which means Boruto might be getting the sword in the middle of the battle, adding another layer of intrigue and curiosity to the power-up. Well, if you are interested in more such stuff, check out these videos right now, and I will see you next time.